Hi everyone, hi everyone. As you come in, kindly drop a reaction, say hi on the chat, tell us your name and where you're tuning in from as we wait for the rest to join. Hi Rose, hi. Karibu sana. Happy to be here as well. Yeah, you can keep the chat box active. Just say your name and where you're from. Kama uko Nairobi, kama uko kwa jam, kama uko side za Ruiru, watu wa Juja. Hi Irene, hi Eric, hi
Yeah,
Anna,
hi.
hi. Wow, Irene is tuning in from Uganda. Interesting. Thank you so much for coming in. Hi Diana. Diana, you did a really good job in bringing people in. Hi Justin. Changamke, tuchangamke, ni Friday. Just write your name and where you're tuning in from. And then we'll start the session very shortly. Great. Hi, Mercy. Hi, Eric. Hi, Sarah. I can see you. Hi, who else? Hi, Rose. Eileen, Mercy, Anthony. Karibuni sana. There's someone who has joined with HP. I don't know who it is. Kindly let us know your name so that we're able to check from our registry as well. Hi, Namuel. Hi, Kevin. Kevin, HP. Okay. Hi, hi. You are my very first person to register. Thank you so much. Karibuni nyote. So I think we'll start off the session because we have quite a good quorum. Okay. So karibuni sana. Um, My name is Gladys Wanjao, and I'll be taking you through the session. I am a lead auditor for ISO 9001, but I've also been working in an institution where we had ISO 14001 as well as ISO 45000, and we're also doing food safety. So we initially had FSSC plus FSMS because the factories had been split into two. So the older factory was using FSMS, and the newer factory was using FSSC. But then just before I left, we combined to have all of them using FSSC version 6. I will not be able to cover food safety in this particular ISO masterclass, but I will do that in a later session. So karibuni sana. And yeah, so the question today I want to ask is ISO for you, is it just a tick box system, or does it actually deliver value to your company? And if maybe you're working for an institution, you can try and evaluate, is the ISO working for the company, or it's just a tick box system? So here at Indelible Impact, we want to support organizations to move from just ticking boxes to being able to add value. Just a minute, I need to. Okay, I think now you can be able to see me and see the slides as well, hopefully. Is that correct? Yes? Yes, okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, so I'll start with a brief introduction of myself. So my name is Gladys Wanjao, as I've said, and one fun fact about me is that I once participated in the Reco Flutter Flavor show. I wouldn't say I'm a good chef, but I dared myself, just like I am doing today. I dared myself to do something um, different. I was actually taking my mom to compete, and I decided to just support her by also joining in. And we ended up registering together and actually competing together and then against each other. Yeah, so that was something interesting. And as even as we do this class, I want to throw a challenge to each one of you to dare to do something different each year. Just try and throw yourself into the deep end and see what happens, just like you've done today. Some of you don't know me, but they've dared to trust that I will deliver something meaningful today. So thank you so much. Yeah, so I don't know I want the session to be a bit more interactive and for you guys to participate. It's Friday, people have had a long week. So kindly on the chat box, as you state your name and where you're from, maybe you can also tell us one fun fact about yourself. That will be incredible for us just to know. Yes, let us know your name, where you're tuning in from, and just one fun fact about yourself. So we will continue going through the charts as we go through the slides as well. So another fun fact is that ISO is actually not an acronym for the organization. I know most people think that it's an acronym for the organization that churns out the standards, but it's actually not. Instead, it is actually coming from a Greek word that means equal. The Greek word is isos. I don't know if you can remember was it class 4 or 5? Those ones of us who did 844, not CBC, we had something like called the isosceles triangle because it has two equal sides and two equal angles. So same concept, and that is where the word ISO comes from. And the world agreed to use the Greek term because everyone understands it to mean equal. So that's one fun fact about the ISO systems. So ISO basically is also the organization that actually comes up with these standards. And how they come up with the standards is that they have different countries, including Kenya, and they send out their representative. For us, it's KEBS. So the national standards body from each country come together and form now the international non-governmental organization, which is then ISO. And that's how they agree on. Oh, really? Justin says the screen is not visible. Oh my, okay. Okay, sorry about that. Um, Okay. Also, as we do this, also join Mentimeter. We are going to be having some questions on there. Yeah. So we'll be able to also have you participate through Mentimeter. So you can also join Mentimeter. Yeah. So kindly just confirm if you can actually see my slides. Please confirm that you can see the slides. Anybody, somebody?
Yes,
Yes, yes, can see okay, okay, great. Sawa, sawa. So we can continue. Yes, so another interesting fact is about the high-level structure versus the harmonized structure, and this we will look at it in depth as we continue. Uh, But basically, the high-level structure is something that ISO introduced in 2012 and has been running up to 2021. It made the ISO standards more standardized and more similar in terms of the outline and the terminologies. So that is what was called like the high level structure. And I think for most of you who have interacted with the ISO standards, you'll find out that they have the 10 clauses. So all of them have that structure. The reviews that were done past 2012 and the standards which were made after 2012 took on this high level structure. But even as we know that continual improvement is one of the pillars of ISO and standards, ISO itself also improved in terms of how the structure is, and we moved over to the harmonized structure in 2021. And I'll be able to explain a bit more about this as we go on. Yeah, so now we can get into the Mentimeter. I want us to just answer just these two questions. Number one, what are you hoping to gain from this masterclass, and what is your biggest ISO challenge? So kindly you can tell us one fun fact about you, then you submit the answers. Brian, kindly give the passcode or the QR code for them to be able to access Mentimeter. So with me today, I have Brian and Clara who are supporting me on the back end, and they'll be here with us to assist us. So the passcode is there on the chat box. I think someone had written something and then it has disappeared. What do you expect to learn from today? What are your expectations about today's class? And what is one of the biggest challenges for you in terms of ISO systems? Those are the two questions I want you to answer as we continue. To understand ISO and what it entails. Thank you. Someone else, please. You can also write on the chat box if you're not able to access Mentimeter right now. You can just put your answers in the chat box. We'll be able to look at all of them. We have a lot to cover, so just kindly let's just participate. We have quite a lot to cover in this 1 hour. To be an ISO trainer, okay, that's an expectation, okay. Balancing ISO and other roles, yeah, that's quite a big challenge. Um, I found a lot of people, especially maybe if you're in the quality assurance, or you're in the EHS. Sometimes the ISO systems are again lumped on you. How to interpret requirements in a practical and workplace context. More knowledge. Looking forward to become a lead auditor and trainer, gain more knowledge. Keeping up with the changes. Yes, yes, yes. Keeping up with the changes is, yeah, something that is also a bit of a challenge. The good thing is they take quite some time before they change, especially for 9045 and 14 have taken quite some time before changes have been implemented. Now, the unfortunate bit is the changes that are being planned currently are going to kind of come together all at once. So we are expecting 9014 to land in 2026 and hopefully for OSH in 2027. Audit pressure. Yes, yes, that's a reality. Especially if you are the one leading the team or if you're ahead of a section. Yes, there's quite a lot of audit pressure. How to move from manual system to adopting automated systems. Yes, yes, yes. And that's something we're going to look at even as we look at the changes we expect in the new ISO systems to support organizations in achieving ISO certification. Okay. That's also an expectation. Yeah, keep the answers coming. Keep the answers coming. Just one more minute and then I go back to the slides. I think we'll pause up to there. I hope my slides are back on now. So, as I said, we have a lot to cover, so I'll try and now move a bit faster. I think most people have now settled in. So what we want you to gain from this session is 3 C's. clarity, confidence, and competence. So that when you come out of here, you're able to face those audits, you're able to face the teams that you're leading, you're able to face the management, the top leadership, you're more clear about what ISO is about. You're more competent in terms of the terms, the principles, the structure, and upcoming changes that we expect, and confidence. When you have clarity and competence, then you are able to boost your confidence in addressing the ISO issues. On the illustration on the side, you can see there is a man who was trying to get water. Must be in a desert or something. And he chose to go towards the sign that says water 9 kilometers away. When instead, if he would have known that H2O also means water, it would have been easier for him to move towards the 50 meters. So sometimes we have information in front of us, but we're unable to make the right decisions because we are not clear, we are not competent, we don't have the confidence to make the necessary steps. We don't have the knowledge to actually act on what is best for us. So this is what we want to bring to you today. And our mantra for tonight is that clarity builds confidence and structure delivers impact. So some of the challenges I've also experienced during my course of time as a systems manager. We can look at the company. Of course, the top leadership, sometimes there's a lot of bureaucracy and a kind of lack of support from the top, which affects also the culture, limited resources. Of course, we know for every company and for even every individual, even for you to pay for this course, there's a budget you did, there's something you neglected so that you would pay for this course. So we all know that resources are limited in this world. So in terms of money, time, expertise, and all that. Other challenges are resistance to change or, how to navigate change. Change management is quite a big challenge for organizations. There's also the limited awareness and information, over documentation, confusion, and it makes the ISO systems look so complex. There's also the poor integration between ISO systems to the daily work or the core business strategy. So when people don't, when they have this disconnect, then it becomes a bit challenging for ISO to thrive and to make business sense. Then there is also, of course, inconsistency in terms of the management reviews, the audits and improvements. When you don't learn from the non-conformities or when you don't take the internal and external audits seriously, then it also becomes a challenge. Then there's the fear of being judged or fear of failure or fear of exposure. So people want to tend to manage the auditor, ndio asione gaps, so that when maybe like a client asks about some clients are very strict, especially if you're exporting. Yes, I'll share the PowerPoint presentation after the training. So sometimes you find clients, especially the international clients, they can be very pushy. They don't want just to see the certification. They also want to see the non-conformities that you got. So sometimes you find companies want to push the auditor, usiandike hii, wacha tutarekebisha, all that, just out of fear that they don't want to seem like failures. Also, sometimes they push the systems manager because they don't want to be exposed. The manager who is leading the teams also faces challenges like balancing ISO and other roles, which you have already mentioned, which causes burnout. Sometimes you feel like you're a one-man show. The lack of authority and recognition also is something that challenges the systems manager, because sometimes you are in charge of probably just the quality part or EHS part, but you don't have authority over other sections like sales, marketing, other bigwigs like procurement, production, logistics, yet you still have to keep them in tow to be able to succeed. Of course, there's also the issue of poor culture and lack of support from leadership. lack of buy-in from other departments because they feel like it's extra work, and then keeping up with the changes, which you have already mentioned, audit pressure, which I've already said, and the inadequate tools and softwares to be able to achieve the best out of ISO. So just to keep the ball rolling, I would want to know which management system does ISO 45001 focus on? There are people who say they're newbies and others say they're just curious minds. I want to know if you know what 45001 is about and what is the current version for QMS. Kindly just put it on the chat or on Mentimeter. I can see answers are coming in. Health and safety from Irene. Health and safety. I think many of you are conversant with that. I don't think there is anyone who has actually, Mentimeter is lagging behind. But yes, it's 45,000 is about occupational health and safety. That is correct. What about the QMS? What is the current version? And kindly also state the year. Sarah, I can see you said 9001, 2015. Any other input? Yes, Mercy, similar to Sarah. Thank you so much. Good. Yeah, I think most of you have gotten the answer correctly. It is indeed 9001 of 2015. Thank you so much for the participation. So now let's look at ISO 9001 from past, present to future. So here, ISO 9001 was published or established in 1987. So it's quite old. It's not the oldest, but it's quite old. But it's actually the most popular standard that has been adopted worldwide. So I think that's the one most people know about, and it's about quality. So in 1994, they had a revision, and by then they were actually doing 20 clauses. If now 10 clauses are a lot, can you imagine back then 20 clauses trying to handle all those? And they required 20 procedures, like mandatory procedures. And then there were three auditable standards, 9001, 9002, and 9003. Then in 2000, there was a major review where now we narrowed again down to 8 clauses and 6 required procedures. The 2000 version, which is quite similar to the 2008, because for 2008 it was just word clarification, minor terminologies changing. So this version was a bit popular to the older auditors. So if you have experienced older auditors, they sometimes kind of are stuck in this era for the 8 clauses and the 6 procedures. You will find them asking you about, do you have your quality manual? And we'll see in the current version, we don't actually have a mandatory procedure. So the quality manual is not mandatory. It's actually, you can navigate through other means. So the 2000 version is where they introduce the process and the systems approach, as well as the PDCA cycle. And now they harmonize it to one auditable standard, which is 9001. So the current version is what I was referring to as the high-level structure, which is the 10 clauses. We will look at it briefly. And then we introduced the risk and opportunities, or rather the risk assessment, and top management was more emphasized. How their role is very important in creating the culture and setting the systems right. Now, what do you expect coming soon? in 20, it's there about September 2026, we expect a new version. So all those ones in charge of ISO systems or supporting organizations, you need to tell them to start gearing up. And what we expect is moving to the harmonized structure. That's not so much of a difference. It's still the 10 clauses, but with more clearer terminologies and yeah, just better understanding even for the service oriented industries and also considering the remote working. So that one may not really affect your clients or your organizations. But then when we move on to uh, the integration of emerging technologies, this is considering things like AI. How are you integrating AI and different softwares into your ISO systems? And then a big one, which was initiated through the 2024 amendment, the introduction of climate change and sustainability. This is a big one that is coming into all ISO systems. All ISO standards are now incorporating climate change. How does climate change affect you, and how do you affect climate change? So that's something for you guys to look into. And then there's also the supply chain resilience, which is basically being able to make the system very tight end to end from the beginning of your supply chain to the very end. How are the systems interlinked, and how is it being able to ensure that customer satisfaction is seen throughout your value chain? And then there's also the move to customer experience. Now it's not just customer satisfaction and what many of us have been looking at as customer feedback, which is both the negative and the positive. Now we want to see the whole experience from the moment your client is signing up to your maybe like to your shop or to your organization. How are they treated the whole way up to when now you either when you separate ways or how you keep your customers engaged. So you are looking at the whole customer experience, not just the moment where they are reviewing maybe your products or your services. And then there's the issue of integrating ethical leadership and integrity, as well as the quality culture. A lot of emphasis will be put on the quality culture, the ethical leadership, and this is speaking a lot towards the ESG. As you can see, the world is also moving towards ESG, and ESG also covers a lot of issues to do with governance and leadership. And this is a tweak towards that direction. So as we continue the discussions, try and see how your company is moving towards that direction. Of course, there will be also enhancement of the risk management systems, and how you're also able to foresee risks as well as opportunities, and how you're navigating to be able to optimize both. Then, of course, there's the issue of digitalization and being data-centric in terms of how you're able to now use the information for what do you call it? Decision making. So we will look at the pillars, and you will see that evidence-based decision making is one of the pillars or the principles of QMS. So as we move to the new standard, a lot of data and digitalization will also play a key role. So those are the changes we expect to see for ISO 9001. When we move over to ISO 14001, it was established or published in 1996, relatively new compared to the other standards. This one has also been taken up quite a lot, especially because of the issues of climate change and environmental sustainability. It was reviewed in 2004, where now the compliance requirements were put as a mandatory principle and something to look at in depth, or rather to guide the ISO systems. for 14,001. And then there's also the issue of differentiating aspects that the organization can be able to affect, or the ones they can influence. So in aspects is basically the activities, the services, the products that that the company offers and how it interacts with the environment. And now the differentiation between affecting and influencing is what is the company controlling? What aspects are the company, what are the aspects that the company is able to control within their sphere or within their scope, and which ones are they able to influence but do not have direct control? So that difference was brought about during the 2004 review. The current version is 2015. It has the 10 clauses, and then there's the introduction of risk-based approach. What we expect in 2026, not sure which month, but there's already some traction in moving towards the new version. So of course we will move to the harmonized structure, which is still the 10 clauses, but more clarity in terms of the terminology. So the modernization of the terminology and close alignment with other standards, so that you can have a plug-in system where you have, if you have your ISO 9001, you can easily plug in the other ISO standards because the terminologies are the same and the alignment is the same. So it will be easy for integration of different systems. Then we are going to, of course, have heavy influence on, biodiversity and climate change. It's a real issue in this day and age. So kind of look at what is the organization actually doing in terms of biodiversity and climate change. Are you prepared? Is there anything that you're doing about it? What are your plans around those two subjects? What are the risks? What are the opportunities you can make use of? And within the context of your organization, basically, where are you in terms of climate change? Then there's also the fact of the emphasis on input and output of the management review. This will be heavy or for 14,001. And then the structure and control of external processes. The people who provide external services, how are they plugging in into your system, and are you able to control them? Especially because of pollution control and things like the climate change aspects. So how much of control do you have for the external providers that are coming into your business? Of course, life cycle perspective is a key factor for 14,000. And we are moving from the concept of um, cradle to grave, and now we are moving to cradle to cradle, where we want to have the what do you call it? The circular economy. We are moving towards the circular economy. So how is the organization gearing itself towards a sustainable circular economy? What are the inputs? What are the outputs? What are the waste items, and how can they be recycled back and brought back into the system for reuse and repurposing and recycling? You can look at the 7 R's for that. Then there's the issue of leadership and accountability. This will be heavy for 14,000 because essentially culture is shaped by the leadership. So this will be heavy on the next version. And then, of course, a more refined risk-based planning. So emphasis on risk management, and lastly, on change management. How are you planning for changes, and how are you monitoring the progress of change? For 45,000, it started off as a British standard, which is OSAS 18,001, and it was developed in 1999. And then due to ILO conventions and changes in the national standards for Britain, they made an update in 2007. And after that, the ISO, the conglomerate of the different um, national bodies agreed to move it to become an ISO standard, and that is when OSAS was terminated and replaced by ISO 45000 and one. Yes, ISO 45001. So I was just checking the chat just to see if maybe someone has asked a question. So this one was done in 2018, a bit newer than the other two we've looked at. Again, the 10 clauses, the process and systems approach introduced, as well as the risk-based thinking, and then focus on prevention rather than, reactive procedures, and then focus on worker participation. This is key. The worker participation, we will see, is one of the key principles of 45001. And we expect a new version in 2027. So as I said earlier, for those ones who have ISO 9001, 45, and 14, please expect that in the next year and the other year, a lot of changes will happen. And the good thing, we usually are given a transition period of 3 years. So now count from 2026, another 3 years. So you have some time, especially now that you already have a head start on using this webinar. You have a head start to start, researching about it and thinking about it as you gear up for the transition period of 3 years, after which they usually close now the certifications of the previous version. Yeah, so for 2027, we expect the harmonized structure, again, 10 clauses, but with more clarity in terms of the terminology and the structure, plug and play into other systems, and then climate change. As I have said, this was an agreement in 2024 that changed all ISO systems and standards to include climate change and resilience. So it will be interesting to see how occupational safety and health interacts or interfaces with climate change and resilience. So how does climate change affect, OSH, and how does OSH also impact on climate change? Then also, of course, the issues of mental health and psychosocial risks has also come into play, especially after COVID. So this was anticipated that it will come into play. And then, of course, the digital transformation, things like AI and the softwares, how are you integrating that into your OSH, as well as the governance? Again, this is tweaking people towards the ESG direction. So this is something that you should now start embracing, the fact that ESG will now be something to look at. Let me take a breather by asking you to participate in another poll. Kindly join with Mentimeter and give us your answers. So which one of those is not a QMS principle? There is customer focus, leadership, engagement of people, and legal compliance. I can see two people have answered. For QMS, the principles are actually written on the preamble of the standard. So I'm referring to the actual principles on the preamble part of the standard. I know one of those ones was a trick answer because it's part of what QMS entails, but it is not a principle. Legal compliance takes the day, and that is the correct answer. Legal compliance is not a principle of QMS, but it plays a key role, as we will see as we go along. The other question, please. I think, I don't know. Kindly send me your reactions. Give me a love heart or something so that I know that we are all together. Najua ni Friday, watu wamechoka, it has been a long week. Thumbs up, love heart, celebration, something. If I have lost you, if I'm going too fast, please let me know so that I do what is necessary. I see I have 15 minutes. I'll try and do my best to give you value for your money. Yes. So the other one is legal compliance one of the principles of 14,000? Is legal compliance a principle of 14,000? So for 14,000 and 45,000, the principles are not actually on the preamble, but they are found within the standard. So as you read in keenly, you'll be able to see these principles popping out, but they're not like written on the preamble of the standard. Yes, the answer is yes. Yes, it is. And even in the previous slide, as I was explaining, I did mention that legal compliance is a key principle for both 14 and 45. And maybe in the October series, we'll be able to demystify why the compliance bit is key for environment and for safety. So we can carry on. So the principles for QMS, we have customer focus. And as I had anticipated, made a comment in terms of what we expect in the future, that we will look holistically at customer, not just the satisfaction, but the whole experience. So from the moment you start engagement with your customer, like you are my customers, from the moment I put out the advert of this webinar, how I approached you, how I texted you the first instance or called you, all that will be part of now my QMS, all the way until when we part ways or if I continue with you. So it will not just be focused on, many of the companies have just been doing like the feedback, like the surveys, tell us, like using you can see the image on the side, like rate us or fill in this survey, tell us if you like or you don't like. We've been looking at the social media to see how many positive interactions we have had, how many negative interactions we've had, but now we'll move completely to look at the whole experience. So here on customer focus, we're looking into, exceeding expectations, trying to attract and retain confidence of your customers. We want to understand the current and the future needs of your customer, be able to anticipate what they need before they ask for it, and get feedback, both positive and negative. Kindly, even currently, don't just look at the positive feedback, look also at the negative feedback and take it as learning points for you to grow. In the leadership, we are looking at the unity of purpose and direction. So as I said, the leadership is the one that gives direction and it's the one that actually shapes the culture. So what is your QMS culture looking like? How is your leadership looking like? They also create the right conditions or the right environment for engagement of the people, which we will look at, which is the next principle. And then, of course, they are the pace setters of everything, the culture, the direction, the strategy, the objectives, all that. In terms of engagement of the people, we're looking at how equipped are the workers, the workforce, the people within the organization, their competence levels. Are they able to deliver value? Are they effective and efficient? One of the homework I will give you guys is to tell me the difference between effectiveness and efficiency. What is the difference between those two? You can think about it as we plan to meet next Friday. In engagement, we're also looking at communication. Are the communication channels clear? Are people able to collaborate? And then when we come to process approach, we're looking at consistency and predictability of results, coherence in terms of the system, interdependence of different processes to make up the comprehensive system. And then we're looking at what are the key processes and what are the support processes and how do they interlink with each other. We're looking at are there defined objectives and KPIs for each of these processes, and are they meeting those objectives and KPIs? Then when we come to improvement, which is a big pillar for all ISO systems, we are looking at are you proactive rather than reactive? And even if you are reactive, are you learning from whatever mistakes that you've gotten? And then we're looking at, are you able to foresee opportunities and act on them? Are you able to foresee risks and act on them? We're looking at innovation. And I guess this is where also the issues of, AI integration and technology integration is coming into play as we are looking into the future of the system as it evolves. And then evidence decision making is where we mentioned about, having a data-centric system, being able to be guided by facts, evidence, and data to become more objective rather than subjective. Looking at the different avenues of uncertainty, being able to consider the multiple inputs from the different processes and aspects within the system. If the ability to interpret the data and come up with, good reports and a better system. There's also the issue of the cause and effect relationship. Are you able to, look at the data and know the root cause of something and what is the solution for it, the right solution for it? And then we're also looking at what about the unintended consequences of different aspects of the processes. How are you dealing with that? Because, of course, nothing is perfect in this world. So you can plan to go one way and then something unintended happens. So how do you deal with that? How do you take the learnings from it? How do you do a root cause to be able to find out the best solution for the unintended consequences? And then lastly, we have the relationship management, which is looking at all your interested parties, both internal and external, sustaining those relationships to be able to have a successful system. And basically how the different interested parties or stakeholders come into play into your system. Then for 14,001, we have the principles. As I said, they are not outlined on the preamble, but you will find them within the standard. And that is environmental protection, very key, because essentially we are looking at environment, just like the way MCA is, the pillar is environmental protection, same as 14,001. Then there's the issue of legal compliance. What does your own nation or country, what are the legal implications around environment? What are the guidelines? What are the guidelines? What are the regulations around it? Are you following those regulations within your nation? And if you are dealing with, international clients, what are the international regulations or standards or best practices that you need to comply to be able to get the ISO 14001 certification. Of course, we have continual improvement. We have talked about it. The life cycle perspective, which I've said we want to really move from, a linear kind of life cycle towards a more cyclic and circular economy. So we are moving from cradle to grave. That is the linear, where you're looking at how you, for instance, make, let's say, like if you're making something very simple like chapatis, you have the inputs, which is the flour, the water, then the process, which is now making the chapati, making the dough, putting it into the pan and all that. And then, of course, we also have the outputs. Kuna the dough that remains, ile inashika kwa mkono. We have the waste paper. So we are moving from that linear perspective towards a more circular economy. So how then will you be able to reuse this, maybe like the waste paper for unga ya ngano and the tiny bits of flour that are on the tabletop as you finish and clear up, the makaa or the gas that you're using, these wastes, how are you able to put them back into the cycle? And then we have the risk-based thinking, which we have talked about, looking at your risks and looking at your opportunities in equal measure. And then there's the prevention of pollution, which is critical, and then the strategic integration of environmental issues at the decision-making level, not just, after everything has been said, like in the past, where people were, establishing companies or organizations, and vile wameshatengeneza everything is laid out. They've already even started, manufacturing or giving services, and then they remember, there is the issues of environment. Then now they start to, trying to fix environment into the process. That is not the way it should be. It should actually start with the environment and, considering the sustainability of the company, of the organization. How does it play in terms of the effect to the planet and the planet's effect to the company? And that is where we have issues like, like the EIA. That's also one of the ways we have the strategic environmental integration. Then we have ISO 45001. Workers' participation and consultation is key in terms of creating the right culture. We need to know from the ground, kwa ground vitu zikoaje. The workers are the ones who know where the shoe pinches. They know what the pain points are. So you need to have them included in the decision-making process. This is mirrored very well in the OSHA, how we have the EHS committee. You can relate the two. The EHS committee has half of the team from the shop floor or from the, the workers when you are kwa ground. So this is the same concept that ISO is taking. We need to have the voice of the people at the decision-making table. Then, of course, a strong leadership and commitment driving the system and the culture. Of course, hazard identification and risk control or risk management. If we are not able to identify the hazards, then we are not able to manage OSH primarily. Of course, the culture is key. Continual improvement is key, as well as the legal compliance. So what is IMS? IMS is basically when you integrate two or more systems together. Like for instance, now that we are discussing about QMS, OSH, and EMS, that would then be called an integrated management system, where you are able to have them all together in one organization, moving in tandem and in sync. Why is it important to have something like this? You improve the efficiency and you avoid duplication. You improve the risk management because you're looking at all angles, the environmental angle, the occupational safety angle, the quality angle. And if you're able even to integrate with systems like the security systems or AI, there are standards for different aspects. Food safety, you're even better placed to manage your risks because you're looking at so many angles together. Of course, there's the issue of cost saving, improved compliance, better communication, streamlined processes, enhanced governance, and holistic decision making. Of course, it's not as easy as we are putting it right now. For those ones who have tried it, it of course takes a lot of resources and a lot of, initially, a lot of resources, a lot of, back and forth before you're able to completely integrate. It takes time, but once you get the ball rolling, all these benefits you'll be able to reap from them. Just a short break. Again, I know time is almost up. I will ask that you will kindly allow me to extend slightly for me to give you the best value for your time. So which ISO clause do you struggle with the most? You can tell me on Mentimeter or on the chat. Am I allowed to extend by a few minutes, kindly? You can also tell me if that's okay, or I can strictly stop at exactly 8. I really want to give you value for your time and your money. As I said, resources are scarce, so najua kuna mahali uli sacrifice so that you can attend to this one. Thank you so much. Clause 8, operation. And sorry, I can't read quite clearly. Leadership, clause 5. Is that the response I'm getting? Any other clauses that you're having a challenge with? Of course, we will not cover them in depth today, but let's just look at what the clauses are, especially for those ones who said they are very new to ISO. We don't want you to float. Okay, so these are the clauses. There are 10 clauses. So the first three are, well, I will not say not important, but is you when you get hold of the standard, you will see that they are not really the key aspects that we are looking at. So we start from clause 4, which is the context of the organization. And I've put in a big circle to show that it's the thing that holds everything together. And then we have the leadership, which is at the base of my pyramid because it is the foundation and they are the pace setters. They are the ones who set direction, strategy, the culture, they set even the context of the organization. They are the foundation of this pyramid. Then we have the planning. That's the next thing. Once you have the leadership, then the next thing is the plan or the strategy or the vision, the mission, the KPIs and all that, the objectives. And then there's support, which is where we have the competency and all that to be able to equip the people, readying them up for operations, which is the clause 8. This is now the actual work being done or the actual systems coming into play. And then we have the performance and evaluation. Here we are looking at things like management review and internal audit. How are we checking the system? And then we have improvement. So once it's checked, how then do we improve from the learnings? So let's look at this. I hope this will not confuse you, but this is the structure and the explanation of the Deming cycle, or what others call the PDCA cycle. So at the very center, we have the leadership. As I have said, that the pillar. Everything revolves around the leadership. So if they don't set the right tone, they don't set the right culture, they don't set the right strategy, the right direction, then things will flop. So at the very center is clause 5, which is the leadership. Then we have plan. We start with the plan, which covers the clause 4, 5, and 6. We will not really look into in detail, but it will give you an overview of what the clauses are and how they are integrated into the PDCA cycle. So we have the clause 4, which is the context of the organization, the leadership, and clause 6, which is support, being part of the planning. And then when we come to clause 7 and 8, which is the operations, that is when we actually now do the work. We actually are doing our operations, the day-to-day job. If your company is a service industry or a manufacturing industry, the actual work that you do is what we are referring to as do, and it's covered mainly by clause 8, which is the operations. And then we have the check, which is clause 9, which we're looking at the management review. Here is where the management should be able to go back and check, is our system working? And if it's not working, why is it not working? What can we do to improve? We have the internal audit. People trained internally, or you can also outsource to experts to be able to check. Again, they are checkers of the system before an external auditor comes to check and give you the certificate or recertify your organization. We have to check, is the system working? If it's not working, why is it not working? And then we have clause 10, which is the improvement. So once we have the non-conformities or the things that are derailing the system, how then do we act correctly and in a timely manner to rectify and be able to get back into shape or get back into line? And then again, we go back with the new actions to planning again, and then the cycle continues. So it's a cycle which we call the Deming cycle or the PDCA cycle. So now this area which we have the olive green color, I know men are colorblind, but just bear with me. The part that is not white. The whole of that part is what we are calling the context of the organization. And what does it have? It has your external issues, which are on my left-hand side. The external issues, we also have your interested parties, their needs and their expectations. And then we also have the outcomes that you expect. The border, the black border that is very thick, is your scope. That is where your organization inafika, both geographically in terms of location, in terms of the products that you sell or the services that you sell, because no one organization does everything and no one organization is everywhere. So what is your scope? What are the boundaries? So that's why I'm putting a very thick boundary to mark as the scope. So context covers both the external issues, the needs of the external interested parties and their expectation. Needs is what they must have. Expectations is something that you need to like perceive. What is their perception about the company or the organization? And are you meeting that or are you not? So a need would be like if NEMA is one of your external parties, one of the need is that you have to do the EIA. You have to do the audits annually. That is a need. That's a non-negotiable. The expectation is that once you do the EIA, once you do the audit, the EMP is actually being followed to the T as you had put it on the schedule. So that is an expectation. So if they come in like an impromptu, they would expect that you're following that. I hope you get the difference between the needs and the expectation of the interested parties. Then we also have the internal issues and the needs and expectation of internal interested parties. So we have different processes and different sections within an organization. How they interrelate, each feeds into the other. One section's input is another's output and vice versa. So what are the issues of one section towards the other? And what are the needs and expectations of one section towards the other? So that is all covered within the context. And then, of course, the outcomes. We all hope to have our outcomes met, but sometimes, as I have said, there are deviations. And how do you deal with that? So that all that is what ISO is about, or the system is about. So as we come towards the tail end, we have the practical tips. So first, we can start with the graph. It's a differentiation between continuous and continual improvement. So for the organization, it expects us, or it expects itself to have continuous improvement. The green arrow jetting straight up without any bumps or hitches. We're expecting that you will grow, exponentially and become meet your goals through and through. But for continual improvement is where we have small incremental improvements, and in between them we have the PDCA cycle where we are planning, we are doing, we are checking, we are acting on what we have learned. Then we try and standardize for some time, and then we push again from the improvements that we have learned, then come up again to do the PDCA, plan, do, check, standardize for some time, look at the changes that we have made. Again, the issue of change management. How is it working for us? Are we able to maintain it for some time? After that, push again, and that is what we are calling continual improvement. Borrowed again from, Kaizen mindset, which is, small incremental steps rather than one big push. So for the tips, I would say that ISO is not about perfection. It's about that incremental improvement. Step by step, you improve, check if the improvement is working for some time, then push again to another level, check again, and continue like that. Then as experts, we should know the clauses, but be able to speak in the business language. So this is where the disconnect usually is. when you're the OSH expert, when you're the quality expert, when you're the systems manager, you know the clauses by heart, you know what is expected, but you're not able to translate it to the business language. In coming webinars, we'll be able to, look more into this. Then keep it simple and sustainable. Keep it simple and sustainable. If you, push too much or you make it too complex, then other departments detach themselves and you remain as, a one-man army trying to push the whole of it by yourself, and it becomes really strenuous. So keep it simple, keep it sustainable within your teams. Evidence beats excuses anytime. And that is why we say you must document everything. Document, document, document. And the good thing with this digital era, taking a simple photo, that is already documentation because it has a timestamp. So you can easily take a photo if you are having a meeting, take a photo of the whiteboard that you are doing the notes on, and the photo of the participants, and you're good to go. You don't really need to document, the way you used to, do minutes. Good thing we also have AI which can help you do the minutes. So just document, document, document. And then also learn from every audit. See it as a free consultation rather than an examination. And then, of course, celebrate the small wins, just like we do in Kaizen. We are going to decode some ISO speak or ISO language. More of these terminologies, you will find it in the freebies. I have a whole list of more terminologies. I've put it in the plain English or layman language rather, and I've put in emojis for you to just be able to see what they mean. It will be easier for you to understand. So we have shall, which is a mandatory. It's a requirement, ni lazima tufanye. So anywhere you see shall on any ISO standard, know that you have to do it. If you see should, it's a recommendation. It's a best practice. So it is best advice that you do it as well. Then may gives you permission. It's your choice. You can do it, you may do it or not. So there you have a leeway. So even if the auditor comes and asks you for a clause that has the word may, and you haven't done it, it's still a choice. Haizi kakupatia ka. It's a choice for you to make. Where it has can, it means you have the capability or you have the possibility to do it. Again, you cannot be penalized. But look out for the shall. That is where you'll have a bone of contention with your auditors. 10 common mistakes to avoid. Kindly don't be tempted to copy-paste templates, especially because no two companies are similar. And even within the same company, if you have a branch in Mombasa and another one in Kampala, they may not really, just because the culture is the same, that may save you, but don't copy paste from another industry or from another or from the internet. And even if you do, then try and customize them to meet your culture and your operations and your system, your way of working, so that it makes sense for your organization. Do not rush to get certification, especially if your internal audits are not tight enough and you have not internally aligned, especially in terms of communication, preparing the teams, making them competent enough, preparing them mentally, and giving them the right resources. Give yourself at least 6 months. And even for the transition, you see, we are usually given 3 years. So you see, it's something that someone should consider even when you want to become ISO certified. So don't rush into certification. Lay out the structures, get internal auditors to come and check the system for you, improve on whatever they have given you as insight. When you're ready, go for the stage one. Stage one for a new company that is going into ISO. Stage one does not usually have non-conformities per se. They are usually areas of improvement. So work on that, the tips that you're given in stage one before the stage two, which is now the actual audit, where you will get now the certificate once you pass. Again, don't miss out on involving and preparing both the leadership and the teams on the ground. You have to be the in-between, like you have to be the go-between between the leadership and the teams. You have to make sure that both of those ends are prepared. If they are not, then you will be at a loss. Do not ignore the monitoring and follow-up. from the audits, both external and internal, from the registers that you're doing, from the data that you're collecting, from the analysis, the evidence that you're collecting. Kindly do not ignore any of those. Then do not, I mean, when you treat ISO as extra work or a tick box project, it loses its luster. So look at how you can integrate it completely into the day-to-day, and that is essentially what should happen. But most companies are still stuck in ISO being an extension. It's extra work. So the people only rush during audits to, let's panel beat the procedures, let's panel beat the checklist, let's panel beat the surveys, let's remember to put in the numbers correctly. But that doesn't work. The system should work for you. So by integrating it into your daily work and integrating it to the strategy, that's the only way it will reap benefits. Do not have a silo system. Silo system is whereby each process or each section inajisimamia yenyewe. Have integration, have interdependence and synergy, and then, of course, optimize the learnings from non-conformities and areas of improvement. Do not ignore change. Prepare for change, anticipate change, and have a very rigorous change management system. And then, of course, which I've already talked about, not being able to connect ISOL to the strategy and the daily work. And then, of course, if you have weak internal audits and weak management reviews, then your system is bound to collapse at some point. I want to give you a point of action. I won't put in the Mentimeter for now, but please take it as homework. We will discuss it on 12th as we come. It will be the first thing I will ask you guys. What action will you take going forward to avoid these mistakes that we have mentioned or any other mistakes that you know? Kindly, Brian, put that question in the chat box for me. My call to action is simple. Start where you are. Just start. Plan intentionally. Seek support from the top leadership, because leadership is the pace setter for everything. Identify as many gaps as you can, and then work on, improving incrementally, pole pole too. So start where you are. And then in terms of structure, assign the roles and responsibility, and then document your processes, and then sustain. Train people, review the performance, adjust and preempt change. So in those three simple stages is how you can build your ISO system. Again, I said it's not as simple as I have written it, but this is the best way I can, compress the whole process. Starting, structuring, and sustaining is basically what ISO is about. So as I end the class, this is just the beginning of a journey. Indelible Impact is here to train and give more webinars and, spread the word on more topics. So today we have the masterclass on ISO. On 12th, we have the mini lab, and I'm looking forward to that. It will be more engaging. It will be less of me talking and more of you guys talking and collaborating. And we hope that you will all come back for the session. And then we'll have some series between October and December, just to be able to understand my clients, their pain points, and how I can become better as a trainer and have a more rigorous training program for 2026. So I'm using September to December as a place of learning for you to learn indelible impact and for me to learn you guys, and for me to get more people to understand the different topics that we will share. So it's beginning of a journey, and I hope that you'll be part of the journey as we continue. So September, we have done the ISO systems. Then we will take a step back and look at the farm foundation, which is the legal compliance, which will be the October series. And then in November, we will zoom in on OSH. And we know that OSH drives, performance. And sometimes it's taken a back seat for many years, not just in Kenya, but even globally. So we need to zoom in again on OSH. And then in December, we look at ESG. How can you shape tomorrow by starting today? As I have said, with the changes coming up in ISO, they are gearing us towards more and more of ESG compliance. So let's prepare ourselves for these sessions. They'll be the first and second Friday of every month, same time, same forum, which is Zoom. I know for October and December we have holidays. Of course, I'll consult with you guys to see if you'll be available, or we can push it to the third Friday. But I look forward for you, joining the classes and having, real talk and interactions especially during the mini labs. Yeah, just to give you a teaser of October, this is from the UN repository. It shows that 90% of workplaces in Nairobi are actually aware of OSHA, but only 64% are actually, complying. So, over a third of the workplaces are risking it, taking chances. Yes, I know the Department of Occupational Safety and Health is understaffed and resources are scarce, but would it be really, wise to risk your business by not complying, yet you're supposed to? Because the day they will catch up with you, the day the law will catch up with you, it can be too detrimental for you. And sometimes it's not even the law in terms of positive, like DOSH coming in to inspect and check if you have done the OSH audit. It could be an incident that has now cost DOSH to come, because sasa kimeumana. So just to preempt you guys that there is a linkage between systems and legal compliance. So this is the poster for October, which we will be releasing after the mini labs. So the first 10 people who will come in will get a discount of 10%. I hope you will tell more of your people, your networks about the class. I hope you enjoyed the class. Just as I close, this is us, Indelible Impact. Our vision is to be an unforgettable authority. Unforgettable, that is why we are using the word indelible. In terms of giving you, innovative, tailored, and risk-based solutions. And then our mission is to understand you deeply as our clients, to think boldly, and to build intentionally, guided by curiosity and clarity and care. So we want to understand you so that we can give you the best value for your money, both in the trainings, in the audits, in the technical support, and even in just consulting. Our areas of expertise are in sustainability and ESG, the ISO systems, of course, risk management, occupational safety and health, food safety, and legal compliance. And these are our guiding values. This is our compass, which is the acronym is STEADY. We want you to be sure that your company is steady through the years that you are partners with us. So we have synergy, tenacity, excellence, agility, dependability, and yield. Of course, you want results, so that is why we have the yield there. Yes, time for Q&A. I know time is spent and I really do apologize. I will try next time to be a bit more time conscious. And I thank you for bearing with me and adding me those minutes. I can take any questions that you have. So thank you so much to the team that has been in the background. Thank you so much for all of you who registered and have actually shown up. I really do appreciate, especially those ones who have not known me in the past. You never knew about Gladys Oirimo, but you trusted, you took a chance on Indelible Impact and you showed up. For those ones who I have worked with, people from the company I was working with previously, thank you so much for your support. Having you guys here means a lot to me as your trainer for the day. So you can join us in the next session, which is the 12th, which will be a bit more interactive. And then, of course, after the 12th, we will then put everything on Seller, the recordings, the PowerPoint, and the freebies that we promised. You can be able to have to book a consultation with us. Our Gmail and our number is there. And then, of course, gear up for the October series. Thank you so much. I really, really do appreciate. the time that we have spent together. I hope you have, gotten some value from the interaction. Kindly give me a reaction on what you feel or how you think the session went. You can react using the emojis, um, or you can comment. Okay, so I see some questions. Someone has asked, there's something I haven't understood. Is this an only is this only a is is this an only 2-session webinar? Yes, currently it's a 2-session webinar, which we have done the masterclass today. And then on the 12th, we will have the mini lab. We'll look at a case study and the clauses that we were discussing, tutazichambua. Now we will be able to look at what does context mean, what does leadership mean, we'll be able to now look in depth. So there are questions we've set up. We'll put you into different groups and then we'll give you different clauses to chambua. And then we will have a discussion after that. So it will be a bit more interactive. Kindly come geared up to talk, to share, to collaborate with the rest of the team members. Right now, we are just doing 2 sessions per month. These are just basically foundational level. But as I said, in 2026, as I gain, what are your pain points and what exactly you want to learn, I'm kind of, taking time to be curious to understand what you need, so that I can now come up with a good, rigorous program for 2026. So this is just laying the foundation. And I hope that you will journey with me even into 2026. Spread the word to your communities and your networks. What is the best format for developing objectives, ensuring that the standard requirements are met? I need a guide on this one too. The best format for developing objectives. Maybe Mercy, could you tell me like the current, like one of your objective, or I want to really understand the question. What is the current format that you're using? How have you developed your objectives? You can unmute her kindly so that she's able to speak. Just 2 minutes. Is there any other question apart from that one? I believe the second, yes, of course, the second class will give you a bit more guidance, but if you can be able to speak, you can tell us maybe. Or if you're okay to wait until 12, it's also fine. Mercy?
Uh, Good evening. I think I can wait until 12th, then you can pay for it.
Pardon?
I can wait until 12th.
Okay, sawa. We'll be able to, give you better answers maybe then. Yes. Any other question I've missed out? Brian, somebody, anybody? Kuna question yote nimeacha? Hopefully not. But if you do have questions, you can just, write to us on the group. The group will be active until maybe after the webinar is over, the mini lab is over. If you want to leave after that, then you can. Sorry, yes, Susan, you wanted to say something? I want to close it at that. I really do appreciate. Thank you so much. The last thing is kindly, if you can put on your cameras so that we can do a group photo. As I said, tuna document. I want to see where the journey started as we grow. So kindly, if you can just allow us, just briefly show put on your camera kindly, then we can take a group photo and then we can close it at that. Tafadhali. I hope you will be comfortable with that. Brian will assist with the photo. Tatuambia tukiwa ready. Thank you
Yeah?
so much. If you're not comfortable, it's okay. Then kindly mute. Oh, you can tell the little one it's my fault today. It's my fault today for taking too much time. Sawa sawa. Brian, kindly, if you can, take the group photo for those ones who have already put in their cameras on. Thank you so, so much. Brian, are you good to go so that we close? Brian, are we good to go?
All good now.
Okay, everyone smile, say cheese, say something. Peace. Thank you so much for joining. I hope mmechukua photo, Clara and Brian. I hope you have. Yes, yes. I'm hoping
I'm
the
really sorry. Hi, Gladys.
It's okay, it's okay.
My kids are really in my
We are done.
case.
Tumefunga session. Thank you so much for your patience. You can leave at your pleasure. Tuonane the 12th. Thank you so much. Asanteni, asanteni. Hope to see you on the 12th. And we can keep engaging on WhatsApp. Thank you so much and apologies for taking your time. Clara and Brian, you can remain behind briefly.